welcome back to my channel. Today I'm reading Forced on Me, Chapter 2. So before I begin, I would just like to say that if you hear like a loud voice in the background, that is not me. That is my older brother. He is being very loud and annoying while he's playing his video games in the other room. Literally, his room's right next to mine, so that's fun. He's really annoying. But yeah. Anyways, I think that's all I really have to say. I'm really excited to read this, and this is definitely not my third take, because I started recording this last night, then I gave up, then I just started recording, and I was like, I want to warn them about my brother, all that, so yeah. Sorry, that's my water bottle. I'm gonna start reading, because my brother's quiet right now for some reason. So I'm gonna start reading while he's quiet. So yeah, enjoy. Chapter 2, Izuku's Breakdown, featuring the Todorokis. Yoichi floated there, dumbfounded but proud. He looked at the door I just left through, then Oboro, then the door again. Go after him. I'm gonna stay here with Sho. Tell your nephew I hope he feels better, Oboro said, smiling wide. Yoichi nodded and left the room to find me. When he found me, I was already outside. He caught up to me and was about to say something when my phone started ringing. I answered. Hello? I asked, my steps not faltering at the sound of the voice on the other end. I got some new information on Endeavor, Dobby said, rustling some papers. Want to come check it out? See if it's true? Yeah, I just have to drop my stuff off at home first, I said, smiling. Okay, he said. Let's meet at the same place as last time. Agreed, I said, nodding. See you soon, kid, he said. See you, Dobby, I said, hanging up and pocketing my phone. Who's Dobby? Yoichi asked, and I acted like I was making a new phone call on my phone so people wouldn't think I was talking to myself. Not that I really cared about that, it was really just a common courtesy. He's a friend, I said, continuing unprompted. He hates my dad and I hate his dad, so we've basically teamed up to ruin our fathers. The person nearest to me distanced themselves farther from me as they looked at me disgusted. I glared at the man, who I recognized as one of my father's lackeys. Keep walking, Renayumi, I said, and the man's eyes widened as he ran away from me. Who's Dobby's father? Yoichi asked, and he looked like I was giving him more questions than answers. Endeavor, the flame hero, I said, as I arrived at the train station. Yoichi's eyes widened. He's his eldest child, pronounced dead at 13, but his body was never found. It was because Hisashi took his body before any medical teams arrived. He did a bunch of things to his body to keep him alive. I was getting a lot of weird looks as I talked, so I added, pretty cool fanfiction plot, right? Everyone in the train car seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Okay, but why does he hate your father? Yoichi asked, his eyes narrowed into slits. I mean, you just said that he basically saved his life. Would you not hate your kidnapper? I literally just said Hisashi kidnapped the guy, I said, rolling my eyes slightly. Okay, so let me get this straight. Your dad kidnapped Dobby, basically revived him, and now Dobby hates him. Am I wrong? Well, Dobby, not Bobby, sorry, fucking rawr. Well, Dobby was in a coma for 3 years. He was 13 when he almost burned alive. He didn't see the world again until he was 16. He was still seeking his father's approval. He hated that Hisashi had taken him. He wasn't mad that he had revived him. Dobby left and went home. Everyone was going on about their lives like nothing had happened. That's when he realized that his father didn't care about him and he'd never get his approval. The doctor thought Dobby wouldn't survive past the age of 19 without Hisashi, but Dobby's 23 and still alive. The only reason being despite his father. Wow, that's an interesting story. Yoichi was silent for a few moments, processing everything I said. So, once he gets revenge or whatever on Endeavor, will he die? Right now, yes, but we're trying to find a way to stop that. A way for him to continue living without having to spite his father. I hope you guys find a way, because he's just a kid. I mean, he lost 3 years to a coma. He's probably only 20 mentally. No, he's more likely to be 30 mentally. He was closer to being 18 mentally when he was 12, so he's had a high mental age. So he's always had a high mental age. He's been more mature than he needs to be at his age. He grew up too fast. That's what you're saying. But isn't that normal for the eldest child? Yeah, but he grew up way too fast. Faster than other children. He had to act like an adult when he was 16 because he couldn't rely on his family. But when he was 13, he was taking care of his mom and siblings. His father was pushing his mom's mental state. Hell, it only took a year or so after he was presumed dead that she was sent to a mental hospital for burning her youngest with boiling hot water. The burn on his face is an ice burn since she tried to use her quirk to fix her mistake. All I'm saying is that he's been acting like an adult longer than he's been presumed dead. I don't think he ever really felt like he had a childhood since his father was trying to make him into the next number one when he was 4. That's depressing. Yeah, all the Todorokis have a depressing childhood. Dobby's was just more extreme, I guess. I mean, the youngest, Shoto, trained for 11 years, and by trained, I mean his abuse was labeled as training to be a hero. He's emotionless now, or that's what it looks like. You saw him, the boy with red and white hair, heterochromatic eyes. He's kind of cute. He probably takes after his mom. Definitely not his dad. Oh, do you have a crush on the youngest Todoroki, Izuku? Yoichi teased. I rolled my eyes. No, but he's objectively attractive. I don't even know what love feels like. How could I be in love with him if I don't know what love is? You're gonna make me cry, you asshole, Yoichi complained, wiping tears from his eyes. You'll know you're in love when you are. It's a special feeling. You'll understand when you feel it, I promise. Thanks. I guess it's kind of nice having an uncle. I honestly forgot about you when my father took down all the pictures of you guys. I didn't think about it at the time, but I think that he didn't want me asking about you. But his attempt was futile. I found his diary last year and I found out everything. It's nice to have a nephew. Also, I want to read his diary. Can I read it? I'll grab it when I get home. Yay! We continued to talk. I caught Yoichi up on everything that's happened since he died, and he told me embarrassing stories about my dad. I have a lot of leverage over my dad now. The train finally stopped and we got off. We continued to talk as we made our way to my apartment. We got to the hallway and stopped talking. I unlocked the door quietly and walked into the apartment. I kicked off my shoes and slipped on my slippers. I heard some shuffling in my parents' room, and I knew it was probably my mom, so I made my way to the room to tell her I was heading out in a few minutes. I froze when I made it to the doorway of my parents' room. Mom, what are you doing? I croaked out. My mother was holding a gun to her head. The safety was off, and her finger was on the trigger. She was crying. She cried even harder when she saw me. I'm sorry, Izuku, she said through sobs. I reached toward her, but before I could even take a step forward, she pulled the trigger. I screamed as the bullet entered her skull, and she fell to the ground. I didn't move for a minute. I stood there shaking. I finally steeled myself. I knew I needed to get her to a hospital, but no hospital would help a quirkless kid's mom, even though she has a quirk. I knew one place I could take her that would help her immediately. I quickly picked up my mom and rushed out of the apartment. There were a bunch of people in the hallway trying to figure out what the loud noise was. I didn't even look at them as I carried my mom out of the apartment complex. I went through some alleyways to get to my destination quicker. When I got there, I basically kicked open the door. Help! My mom! She needs help! I screamed when I was inside the Red Door Clinic. There was a doctor with spiky white hair and gray eyes nearby. He rushed over to me and called for a gurney. What happened? He asked softly. She shot herself in the head, I said through sobs. The gurney made its way towards us, and the doctor took my mother from my arms and laid her on the gurney. She's a GSW to the skull. The bullet may have reached the temporal lobe. The doctors and nurses nodded at the white-haired doctor's words before taking my mother out of the lobby. That's when I broke down. I fell to my knees and sobbed. The white-haired doctor went down with me and started comforting me. Hey, everything's gonna be okay. You're okay. Everything's okay. The white-haired doctor continued to say things like this over and over again. Never once did he say that my mom was going to live. He didn't lie to me. Everything was going to be okay. I knew my mom wouldn't survive. It's not like the Red Door Clinic is near my complex. Knowing my mom was most likely dead and hearing that it was true were two totally different things. I broke down again. The white-haired doctor continued to comfort me. He didn't seem bothered by me. If anything, he seemed to have a personal understanding. That was sad. Eventually, I stopped crying. You with me, kid? The doctor asked. I nodded. What's your name, kid? Izuku Midoriya. My mom's name's Inko Midoriya, I said, no emotion in my tone as I looked at the white-haired doctor whose name tag read Natsuo Todoroki. Great! I just broke down multiple times in front of my classmate's brother. Natsuo told some doctor about the Jane Doe's name, and I knew they were talking about my mom. Natsuo looked like he was about to say something to me when my phone started ringing. I pulled it from my pocket and answered. Where are you? You were supposed to be here like 3 hours ago. It was Dobby. Shit, sorry. Something came up. I was so busy taking care of that, I forgot we were supposed to meet up. Sorry, Dobby, I said, taking a deep breath. Hey, it's okay, kid. What happened? He asked, genuine concern in his voice. My mom killed herself, I said, wiping my nose. She took my father's gun from the safe. She pointed it at her head and pulled the trigger. Dobby was silent. Did she leave a note or anything? I don't know. I rushed her to the Red Door Clinic after she pulled the trigger. Do you want me to go check? Please and thank you. If you find one, send me a picture of it, and I'll pick it up after school tomorrow. Wait, you're still going to school tomorrow? A new voice entered the conversation. It was Natsuo. Yeah, I mean, I'm not hurt. I can still walk and talk and everything, so why wouldn't I go? I asked, blinking at the doctor who stared at me in bewilderment. Kid, Izuku, your mom just died. You may not be physically injured, but your mental state definitely took a hit from this. Are you sure you can deal with school on top of this? I know when my brother died, I couldn't go to school for a month. I was stuck in mourning. I didn't want to accept it. Wait, are you talking to Natsuo? Dobby asked, sounding surprised. He works at the Red Door Clinic. Yes, I am, I said to Dobby before looking at Natsuo and responding to him. And I'm sorry for your loss, but school's my coping mechanism. If I stay home, my mental state will only get worse since I'll be around my father even more. Going to school lets me get away from him and all of his bullshit. Natsuo nodded. That I understand. My father's a piece of work too. If you want, you can stay with me. My father never acknowledges anyone other than my younger brother, so you'd be fine there. Can I still accept this offer if I continue to go to school? I asked, smiling slightly. It depends on where you go to school. UA. If you take the train with my brother, then that's fine. He goes to UA too. Shoto, right? Yep, that's him. Deal. Great. My shift's over in an hour. You okay with staying here for a little while? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, Natsuo said, standing up and walking away. So, you're gonna stay with my family? Dobby asked, and I smiled. I guess I'm becoming an unofficial member of the Todoroki family. Well, welcome to the family, newcomer. It's hell. You know what? What? Your brother Natsuo looks kind of similar to Ten's boyfriend. They sound similar, too. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they were dating. What if I told you that they are dating and I knew the whole time and this is just me trying to tell you? I'd say you're an asshole, but thank you for telling me. You didn't have to. He's your brother. Also, this is my first time actually meeting him in person. I don't think he knows who I am. He probably recognizes my first name, but not my last. Ten calls me Shimura, not Midoriya. Fair enough. Are you going to tell him? Ten's probably going to tell him when they have lunch tomorrow, and Natsuo brings up the fact that I'm staying with them. Well, have fun, Shimura. I will. Bye, Dobby. Bye, kid. I hung up and leaned my head against the wall behind me and closed my eyes. I heard the door to the clinic open, but I didn't open my eyes. Yoichi had started talking about random things to keep my mind off the fact that my mom was dead. It helped. After a few minutes of that, someone called my name. Izuku? A familiar male voice asked. I opened one eye before closing it and sighing. I opened both eyes and sat up. Hi, Aizawa, I said, rolling my neck. Oboro was behind Aizawa and waved. I just nodded slightly in his direction. What are you doing here? Aizawa asked, concern hidden in his tone. I didn't want to tell the truth. I didn't want to tell him the truth. I was about to respond when Hitoshi came into the lobby. The civilian's going to be okay. Natsuo's taking care of her, he said to Aizawa before noticing me. Oh, hey Izuku. What are you doing here? I couldn't lie to Hitoshi. This wasn't fair. My mom died, I started, sighing before continuing. She shot herself. I brought her here, but she died. Aizawa and Hitoshi were silent as they stared at me in shock. Yeah, Natsuo's gonna let me stay with them, so I'm just waiting for a shift to finish. Are you okay? Hitoshi asked, sharing a glance with Aizawa. He looked genuinely concerned, and I felt my heart rate pick up. Was I having a heart attack? No. There would be other signs. Why was my heart beating so fast? Oh, you don't like the Todoroki kid. You like your teacher's son, Yoichi commented, giggling behind his hand. I started blushing. I don't get why. Oh my god, you and Hitoshi would make such a great couple, Oboro said, a wide grin on his face. Honestly, I think he might like you too. I'm fine, I answered, nonchalantly, as I ignored the annoying ghosts. At least physically, my mental state's always wrecked, and my emotional state isn't any better, usually. What I'm trying to say is that I don't feel any different than I normally do. Great, now I'm rambling. I haven't done that since I was 12 and Kachan knocked my lights out. That was a great motivator to shut the fuck up. Honestly, that's more concerning, Aizawa said, looking me up and down to make sure I wasn't lying about being injured. You said your mom shot herself. Did you watch her do it? I just nodded. Hitoshi didn't hesitate and pulled me into a hug. I stopped breathing. No one, not even my mom, had shown me this much affection. Normally, my mom would just give me quick pecks on the cheek. She never hugged me. That was the moment I broke down. Again. In Hitoshi's arms. In front of my teacher. In front of a bunch of random people. I didn't care about them, honestly. I forgot about them. Because, for once in my life, I felt safe. I couldn't hold myself up anymore. My knees buckled, and I started to fall towards the ground. Hitoshi went with me, not letting me go for a second. He whispered to me that it wasn't my fault, that I didn't do anything wrong, that I wasn't the reason. I didn't realize before, but that was the exact thing I needed to hear. I was blaming myself, and I didn't even realize it. I know, I croaked out through sobs. It's his fault. My sobs were starting to die down, so I pulled back from Hitoshi's hold and started wiping my eyes. He's the reason she killed herself. Hitoshi looked up at Aizawa before looking back at me. Who? He asked, softly, as he reached forward and took my hand in his. I looked him in the eyes and said, my father. Hitoshi and Aizawa's eyes went wide. I stood as my phone started ringing. I pulled it out of my pocket and looked at the name. Oh, how I wanted to start bawling right then and there. Yes, again, because I'm a very emotional person. I answered the call. Hey, Zoo, Ten said, sounding happy. Toya called me and said I needed to call you because you needed to tell me something. So, what is it? 10, I said, trying not to start crying. It's Mom. She shot herself. There was a long pause before I said, she's dead, 10. She's dead. 10 was quiet on the other line for a while before a choked sob escaped him. Where are you? He asked, still choking back sobs. Red Door Clinic, I said, quickly adding, where Natsuo works. 10 sniffled and said, I'll be there in a second. I hung up and stared at the door. It only took a few minutes for Tenko to walk through, and when he did, I gave him a big hug. He hugged back, clutching at my shirt as he let out heartbreaking sobs. I put my hand on the back of his head and just held him. I didn't say anything because there was nothing I could say, at least not to Tenko. Aizawa, I said, looking behind me at Aizawa and Hitoshi. Can you go get Natsuo? Aizawa nodded and left the lobby. I turned back to Tenko. Natsuo's coming, Ten. Don't worry, it'll be okay. Ten? Natsuo asked, rushing over to us. He put a hand on Ten's shoulder and said, What happened? I pulled away from Ten. He's my brother, I said, holding back tears. I felt arms wrap around me from behind, and when I looked, I saw Hitoshi. Thank God for Hitoshi. Oh, Tenko, Natsuo said, pulling Tenko into a tight embrace. Tenko went home, back to the bar. Hitoshi sat with me while Natsuo finished his shift, and Aizawa went back on patrol. I wanted to die. Not because I was suicidal. I don't think I was. But because everything in my life was crashing down. My mom was one of the only good constants I had in my life, and now she's dead. At that moment, I was reminded how much I hate people as an elderly man walked into the clinic and started chiding me for looking so sad. I glared at him as I said, My mom died. What do you expect me to do? Jump up and down with joy? Is that what you think I should be doing? If you think that's what I should be doing, then you should try a therapist because you are seriously disturbed. The man was shocked silent as he made his way to the front desk. I just stared up at the ceiling with my head in Hitoshi's lap as he wordlessly played with my curls. Normally, I hate it when people touch me in any way, but I don't mind Hitoshi. Honestly, the gesture feels really comforting. The action's starting to lull me to sleep, but I don't succumb to it. You can sleep, you know, Yoichi said, breaking the silence I had finally settled in. No, I said, making several people look at me. I looked around and said, Don't worry, I'm just sleep-deprived and hallucinating. I'm fine. Everyone looked more concerned. Way to soothe away their worries, Yoichi commented dryly. Who said I was trying to soothe anyone? I'm just existing, I said, staring Yoichi in the eyes. Everyone was still looking at me. You good? Hitoshi asked, hesitantly, fingers pausing in my hair. Yeah, I'm just listening to an annoying ghost. Before you ask, yes. I'm insane, I said, glancing at Hitoshi out of the corner of my eye. Noted. Try not to scare everyone away, Hitoshi said, joking, as his fingers resumed their previous motion. I'll try. Can't promise I'll succeed, I said, shrugging slightly as Hitoshi chuckled. I did end up falling asleep after that. Yoichi told me that Hitoshi had asked a nurse to bring me a blanket. He said it was such a cute thing to do, and I told him that Hitoshi's just a thoughtful and caring person. The next time I woke up, I was in the guest room of the Todoroki family's house. I was exhausted and my back ached. I turned onto my side and blinked a few times to adjust my eyes to the darkness. I stiffened. There was Hitoshi. He was laying on a futon next to the bed I was on. I quickly searched for my phone. It wasn't too hard to find, because it was plugged in on the nightstand. I checked the time. 3:22. That means that I'd been out for hours. Natsuo's shift ended 4 hours ago, which means Hitoshi has been sleeping on that, most likely uncomfortable futon for at least a few hours. This would not do. I silently slipped off the bed. I tiptoed towards the futon before carefully picking up Hitoshi. He didn't stir. I carefully set him down on the bed and threw the covers on top of him. Aren't you a sweetheart? Yoichi cooed behind me. I sent him a half-hearted glare, which just made him laugh in delight. After that, I quietly made my way out of the room. What are you doing? Yoichi asked, curiously as he followed me. I'm going to the kitchen, I said, walking towards said room. Why? Yoichi asked, moving in front of me, probably trying to make me stop walking, but I just walked through him as he squawked. I need coffee after the day I had, I said, as I made it to the treasure that sat atop the counter in the Todoroki's kitchen. I made myself a cup of coffee before sitting down at the island. Did you forget your phone? Yoichi asked, floating above the island in a crisscross seating position. I just shook my head. Oh, so you want to talk to me? He looked over the moon. I shrugged as I hid my smile behind my mug. We have time to talk now, so why not take advantage of it? I said, setting down my mug. Okay, so what do you want to talk about? Yoichi questioned, sensing a more serious tone in my voice than a fun and exciting one that he had expected. Why can I see you? I still don't understand that. I'm quirkless, so did my dad give me a quirk or something? I asked, running my finger along the rim of my mug. Oh, no, it's not a quirk, Yoichi explained as I looked up from my mug. We can just show ourselves to people who are part of the original bloodline. Honestly, I'm starting to think we should have shown ourselves to Inko. Wait, what? I said, putting both of my hands up to stop Yoichi. What do you mean by original bloodline, and what do you mean we should have shown ourselves to Inko? Oh, wait, do you not know about One For All? Yoichi asked, tilting his head sideways. The quirk that my father's been after for centuries? No, I know absolutely nothing about it, I said, sarcastically. Okay, Mr. Sassy Pants. Well, I mean, the original bloodline of One For All, that's you, AFO, Tenko, and Inko. And Inko and her family, because she married into the family. We can show ourselves to any of you, Yoichi explained. And I said that we should have shown ourselves to Inko because of what happened last night. I was silent for a minute as I studied Yoichi's wilted form. It's not your fault, I commented. He looked at me confused, so I elaborated. You aren't the reason she killed herself. Sure, you might have been able to talk her out of it if you'd known, but you didn't, and you can't go back in time, so don't waste time dwelling on what could have happened. Yoichi smirked as he spoke. You know, you speak wise words for a teenager. I rolled my eyes, but before I could respond, there were footsteps coming from down the hall. I turned my head to look at the entrance of the kitchen. After a few seconds, a sleepy-eyed Shoto Todoroki walked in. He just blinked at me in confusion. What are you doing here? He asked, as he made his way to the fridge. Not supposed dating my brother, so I asked if I could stay the night here since I didn't want to go back to my apartment. I explained vaguely. Hitoshi's here too. Hitoshi? Shoto asked, as he took a seat across the island from me. The boy with purple hair and pronounced eye bags who's not in our class, but he watched us do the quirk apprehension test. That guy, I explained, as I took another sip of my coffee. Shoto hummed as he took a sip of water. I don't understand why you would want to come here when Endeavor lives here, Shoto said, scowling. Look, I hate Endeavor just as much as the next person, but honestly, he's a better person than my father, so I'd rather be here, I said, leaning my head back. Your father's Hisashi Midoriya, the famous quirk analyst, right? Shoto asked, regarding me skeptically. I nodded, holding back a snide remark about the man. He has a fire quirk like Endeavor, so if he's worse than Endeavor, I can only imagine what you must have to endure. I shrugged. Let's not compare trauma. We've both had our family struggles, I said, hands shaking slightly. You okay, Izu? Yoichi asked, and I nodded slightly as I picked up my mug again. The thing is, I wasn't okay. My mom just died in front of me. I saw my brother break down. I broke down. I broke down more than once. Now I can see the past One For All users, and my father wants me to be a traitor. Nothing about yesterday was okay. I wanted to cry. I wanted to punch someone, something. I bit my lip before groaning as I threw my head back. Life sucks, I complained, and Shoto just nodded. We sat in silence for a while. It was comfortable. Okay, guys, so that was the end of chapter 2. I don't think I really have anything to say about that. Literally, I just love that chapter so much. I don't think it's better than the first chapter, but, it's still good. Anyways, I think that's it. So, I hope you have a great day, night, morning, evening, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!